Schools are very human places. Your school community is made up of people. The people who make up your school community all are living a life. That life is unique. No one else is living that life. So you put all the unique lives of every individual in your school community together, you have a massive, complex living organism. It's made up of the lived lives of the people who make up your community. There are people from many different schools in Rockhampton here today. No school in Rockhampton can ever be like the next one, and should never expect it to be. Because you can't be. Your lives are different than the schools next door to you, than the lives of the people in the school next door to you. Your lived lives make you the most unique living organism. You can't put anything in place from the outside into your school and have it look like the school next door, because you are a unique living organism as a school. As the leaders of school, we need to understand that reality, school as living organism. It means that you have to lead the school through a healthy life cycle as a living organism. There are 4 stages of life of a healthy school. The man who began to teach us about that back in the 1960s was an American by the name of Tucker. Later, Peter Tuckman. Later, Peter Block was another American who researched and did work around schools and organizations as living organisms. There are the 4 stages of life of a healthy school: forming, storming, norming, and performing. Forming starts when you agree to do something together. This is why shared visioning has been so important to me when I have gone into a school community. I wanted us to form up around a shared, clear picture of what we wanted our school to be like sometime in the future. And people like that. These are the behaviors you see as you form up as a healthy school. Collaboration, some uncertainty, a lot of staff wondering what are we getting into now? A lot of negotiations, skilled consensus, excitement, and in my schools we ended up with this shared vision. Here are a couple quotes from some of the people in schools we've worked with about this phase, forming up. When voices are heard that are usually stilled. I love that line. All of our schools have so many staff bullies in them, shutting other people down, never hearing their voices. When voices are heard that are usually stilled, people love it. That leads to the storming stage, the second stage of life of a healthy school. Look at the behaviors that show up in the storm. Challenge the mindsets. My idea is better than yours. You know that, don't you? Confrontations. Egos show up. Staff factions show up.
How did you deal with those, Bill? When staff are getting stuck into each other, knifing each other, how did you deal with that?
I had an Ego of the Month award at staff meetings. Carrie, you had the best ego all month. Great, get rid of it quick, but we need it right now. We need that right now. I'd walk down hallways and see 2 teachers in a heavy argument. I said, best fight I've seen all week, just don't draw blood, but we need that right now. You see, these behaviors must happen in the storm. They must happen to be healthy. Notice near the end of the storming stage, some better things, some better behaviors start to show up. But you must hold your nerve during the storms. All over the world, this is what happens. A principal goes to a conference like this. They go back to school tomorrow and say, I know what we're going to do now. And you form up around something. And that feels pretty good for a couple days or weeks or a couple months. And it takes you into the storm. All these behaviors start to show up. And we say, uh-oh, this isn't working. This isn't working. We're not behaving toward each other very well now. This isn't working. We got to stop. Get rid of these behaviors. Send the principal to the next conference. Come back with something else to form up around. Oh, this feels better. Now we're behaving good again. And then you go right back into the storm again. You don't like the behaviors. You go back. Find something new. Takes you into the storm. You go back. Back to the storm. Schools all over the world have told John and I, this is our pattern of behavior. We start something new. We get into it. The behaviors show up and we quit. We have never finished anything as a school with great quality where we've nailed it because they didn't hold their nerve during the storm.
So their life is forming, storming, forming, storming, forming, storming, forming, storming. They never get through to the promised land.
When you hold your nerve and you start to go through the storm and get to the other side of the storm, you hear quotes like this. I just love there are no energy vampires. We're all sources of energy. Doesn't get any better than that in a school. Another quote. The behaviors that begin to show up if you sustain and hold your nerve during the storm. That's why for a while you must celebrate all those negative behaviors that you see. And you must tell the staff, it's going to get stormy around here. You're not going to like each other very much for a while, but we're going to celebrate that because we need that for the next 5 or 6 months. We need it to happen because we've got to get to the other side. We've got to get to the other side. And on the other side is the norming stage. You begin to see these behaviors show up. In my experience, norming begins to happen somewhere in the second year of beginning to do something with real quality together. The storm is where you get worse before you get better, where all those bad behaviors show up. But this is what happens in the norming stage of a healthy school. There's only one stage left after that. Here's what a teacher said about that stage. That teacher's ready to go. Ready to go, as is this one.
It's from Sweden.
And that would take them to the last stage of life of healthy school performing. I mentioned I worked more than 30 years in the American system. Did a good job, I thought, as a teacher, as a school leader. 30 years, over 30 years, and I only spent seven years of my career in the performing stage. 3 years in one school, 4 years in another. To me, that's a wasted career. You all deserve much more than 7 years of performing than what I got. Because what I found out, my whole teaching career, 16 years, was forming and storming. Then when I became a leader, I found out I have to take my staff through forming and storming to get to norming and performing. I did it twice. Both times, John has met, we had our schools recognized as the best in the country. Got to shake 2 presidents' hands. Unfortunately for me, being a Democrat, they were both the Bushes. but that's another story. Have a talk with each other. In your careers, what stage of a healthy school have you spent most of your time in? Forming, storming, norming, or performing?
Did you sort of encourage or progress the storming stage, or did you give it so long and then pull it up?
In our work that we do with schools, we have a cruise ship for the storm. It's about a year long. But understand, as you go through the life of being a healthy school, anytime you start to put something new in place and the staff's going to get worse before they get better, you'll have some mini storms to handle. But if you understand the behaviors of them and you make the staff aware, these are the behaviors we're going to see for a while, and they say, they're courageous people. People who are in education are courageous people, and they say, let's go for it.
And you let them
I
go.
understand, let's go for it.
You got to taste it, taste the frustration, taste the anger. It's important. It's an important part of learning. So don't cut it short. No, let it go. Trust them. Trust your staff. And congratulate them when they're doing it. Go for it, but get over it.